Hello everyone, Daniel here. Today we are going to talk about how to do longer screams and growls, and I'm going to talk about some mistakes that I often see with my students or with just people who try to do longer screams or growls generally. First thing that we are going to talk about is that there is a difference between how false chord screams and growls or false chord or fry screams and growls sound, and there's a difference in how you can hold them out for longer periods of time. False chord vocals tend to use much more air and much more breath than a fry scream would use. A false chord is, I always tell my students to try to push the breath out like you would do it with a not full force, but with the diaphragm muscles fully flexed in, like you're waiting for a punch in the stomach. And when it's all flexed, you try to push the air out between your upper part of your tongue and the upper part of your mouth, making an S sound. And that sound is generally the force how much you would need to use in a false chord vocal, like and a fry vocal or fry scream or growl tend to use much less air and much less breath support. Typically, I would say it even requires to flex your muscle at double the amount of force than you would try to flex it in a false chord. That is because fry screams need much more control, and they need that in order for them to sound constant. The difficult part with fries is not to hold them out for longer periods of time. The difficult thing is to make them sound consistent, like yeah, yeah, yeah. The control that is required in order to make it sound constant and consistent is almost, like I said, double the amount of force than you would normally require in a false chord vocal. However, less breath generally, and it requires much less air. Basically, a fry scream can be done with the amount of air you would normally breathe out if you would go out to the cold and you would see your size, your breath freeze, and you're just trying to play with it, that like a really slow sigh. So one of the first mistakes that many people do is that false chord vocal, or even the fry vocal, but mainly the false chord ones, tend to sound really breathy, really airy. That is because how you should do these growls is that you should feel the creation of the voice pushed in the upper part of your mouth, in the front part of your mouth. So that will make it sound like the sound is created at your soft palates. That is where you would feel that it resonates the sound. It really actually just massages your voice, and that is how you should feel the control put into your distortion. And if you do that, you are pushing the air and the voice upwards from an imaginary pen that is put in front of your mouth. Like, imagine that there is a pen in front of your mouth and you're trying to push the vocal creation upwards from it. If you would push it downwards, it would create a much more airy, much more harsh vocal, which is a useful tool. It is used by Cannibal Corpse or Kublai Khan or other bands, but it requires extreme stamina. If you push it upwards from that imaginary pen, then it would sound like the distortion sounds much more controlled, and that way you can actually hold it out for much longer periods of time. So remember, the key thing is to try to feel the distortion, other than happening at your false chords, of course, pushed upwards and into the front part of your mouth. That is where you should feel the distortion pushed. That way you can hold a scream out for really long time, like yo. Here is a live footage from Fit for a King Backbreaker song, and their vocalist Ryan Kirby doing a really long scream at the end outro of that song.
The world is watching, their eyes are piercing me now. I feel the pressure, that's what I'm burning.
That is all done because he does the same thing like I just told you, the controlled way of creating the screams and growls. The really easy practice that you can try to use is, like I mentioned at the beginning, we usually do this to a metronome, but try to do it that you set a metronome to 60 BPM and start counting the beats. This is just for demonstration, and after 4 beats, take a breath in for the 5th and the 6th metronome for 2 beats, and then push it out, that same S sound that I told you at the beginning, from your upper part of your mouth and between the upper part of your tongue, and using all the diaphragmatic muscles that you can muster and use to push the air out. That way you are practicing how to use your diaphragmatic muscles in a way to push it, the sound, the distortion, to the upper part of your mouth. Like same thing. And if you done this practice with only the air pushed out, then you can try to do the same thing with the growls and screams as well. And so on. If you are interested, there are a lot more practices on how to help you, how to create more longer screams. If you are interested in that, then check out my online extreme vocal course up on Skillshare and up on Udemy, and send me a message for private lessons if you're interested about that as well. Yeah, take care. Metal!